Ladies and gentlemen, US federal prosecutors have charged Indian industrialist Gautam Adani, Sagar Adani and several others in an alleged solar energy contract bribery case. This case pertains to an alleged multi-year plot between 2020 and 2024 to bribe Indian officials with money to the tune of 2,000 crores in exchange for favorable terms on solar power contracts that are expected to generate over $3 billion. Some of these allegations against the Adanis include meeting with Indian officials to advance the bribery plot, tracking the locations of bribe recipients and using code names. Meanwhile, the Adani Green has responded to these charges, stating, and I quote, "The Adani Group has denied the allegations, calling them baseless and saying that all legal recourse will be sought." The Adani Group has also sought to reassure their stakeholders, saying that they are a law-abiding organization. Now, in light of these developments, their subsidiaries have also decided not to proceed with the proposed USD-denominated bond offerings. Since the case has been filed in a US court and the FBI has been involved, let's understand how it would now move forward and what are the legal options for the Adanis beyond all the political fight and the political war of words that we have been seeing since morning today. On Global Mirror, I'm joined by Karthikeya Tanna. He is a US-based attorney. In fact, he practices in New York, and he's joining us on the show to help us understand and break it down for us how it moves for the Adanis legally. Karthikeya Tanna, good evening. Namaskar. Thank you very much for speaking with us on Global Mirror. There is just so much around this entire controversy, this storm that has taken over Indian politics right now and India right now, that I want to understand from you and help us simplify the nitty-gritties of the legalities involved. First of all, what do you make of this entire case by the US government against an Indian national with Indian officials allegedly involved on Indian soil?
Right. Okay. Well, good evening and namaste to everyone. Essentially, what is happening is that, yes, users might wonder, why is the US intervening in an instance of an alleged bribe given by an Indian national and Indian company to Indian officials? And the answer for that is simple, is that the Adani Group essentially issued or raised money from US investors with their bond offering. So by that, you're participating in the US in terms of raising finance. They also raised money from financial institutions as well. Now, when you do that, you're supposed to disclose all relevant and material facts, that could alter the decision of investors to invest in your bonds and in your securities, as well as from financial institutions. They may decide not to give a loan if they find out that there's something going on. So what essentially the case of the U.S. government, and when I say U.S. government, I mean the SEC and the FBI and the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is that the Adani Group did not disclose the investigations regarding bribery as well as allegations that were actually going on since almost over a year. They did not disclose that in their offerings to investors as well as in their documents to financial institutions when they obtained money from within the US. And that effectively is, misleading, potentially fraudulent, etc. And obviously, viewers should also understand that when charges are filed, they go to the maximum extent possible. And then obviously it has to be proved. It has to be proved with witness examinations, document examinations, etc. And it has to be proved whether there was actually fraud or there was, just a negligence or omission, etc. By the way, one important thing that your viewers must know is that Adani, Gautam Adani, or even Sagar Adani personally have not, I repeat, not been indicted in that charge of actually bribing officials in India. And the reason for that is simple. That doesn't mean that this incident may not have happened, this alleged bribery may not have happened. But they're not indicted in the US on that ground. They're indicted on other grounds, which is basically failing to reveal material facts. Now, why are they not indicted in that? And the answer for that is simple, because while Adani's companies did raise money from the US, they're not a US-based company in that sense. They're not traded on the US stock exchange. Therefore, the the law in the US, which effectively prohibits US-based companies or companies that trade on the United States stock exchanges from engaging in corrupt practices abroad, that law does not apply to Adani. So let's be clear about this. Adani, Gautam Adani or Sagar Adani are not indicted for that one charge. They are indicted for other charges, which effectively stem from, like I said, the failure to disclose the ongoing investigation regarding bribery, which could have, which could have altered the decision of
So,
investors to
Karthikeya, what
invest.
are their legal options now? The Adani Group has responded saying that they will take all the legal recourse that's possible. How does this move forward now? What are their options?
Well, they will, of course, respond to this in court. They have to respond to, these indictments in court. They'll engage their attorneys. They'll respond to that in court, and then the process of discovery will begin, which is where the Adani Group will get all the necessary documentation from the U.S. authorities, the FBI, the DOJ, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, which will then help them prepare a defense. Now, as has happened in this case, in cases like these, rather, many a times, an agreement is arrived at between parties, 6 months, 12 months down the line, where, the Adani Group might say, okay, fine, we should have disclosed this in our offerings. It was vague. The allegations were vague. What the investigation that you were doing was vague. And our advice was that, or the professionals that advised us told us that we don't really need to disclose this, but fine, if you say we need to, okay, let's arrive at a deal. And it's quite possible that, Adani might be imposed, a hefty fine might be imposed on Adani for not disclosing this. But other than that, I really don't see them going the whole hog in pursuing even criminal charges against that. Obviously remains to be seen. This is just my estimation based on what has happened in similar cases in the past.
There's also, Karthikeya, I believe, an arrest warrant that has been pressed. How does that work in the US, and what's the possibility of that? There's also a lot of conversation about how this is also a case of extra territorial jurisdiction assertion by the United States when it, presses charges against an Indian national.
Well, again, if there's a violation of US laws, and let's say by anyone, and that person is not in the US, then what the US effectively does is they do issue the arrest warrant. That's the first step. It's basically what India would do, for example, for any foreign national who, allegedly committed a crime in India and then has fled India. So India will first, file an arrest warrant and then, cooperate with international agencies in order to essentially get jurisdiction of the person back. Now, so what will happen in this is that the US will effectively convey to its counterparts in India that we would like to investigate and question these defendants, which include Mr. Adani. Now, whether or not India, because India has to choose to do it. India has a choice. India can either keep the ball rolling, keep the ball pending, and not play ball with this, or before even that could happen, it could reach a stage where Adani agrees to pay a temporary fine for now, and then let the case go on, let the defense go on. According to me, the arrest warrant is a bit of an overreach, and I was trying to find an official document for that. I didn't have enough time from when the story broke yesterday to today, but it seems like a lot of news agencies have reported on it, so it seems to be actually the case that there is an arrest warrant. Now it depends on cooperation of the Indian counterparts. Whether India chooses to cooperate or not, that's a whole other matter. Whether the US even wants to press with it, after a point of time, because again, bureaucratic matters can take a while.
Which is what I was coming to next, Karthik. The fact that the Attorney General is going to be demitting office, there's going to be a new AG that's going to be coming in, attorney that is expected to come in. There's also Donald Trump, who's expected to be inaugurated in January next. How does this move then? Can they do anything about it? Do they still have to take it forward with all the investigation in place, or does it depend upon their decision how they want to take it forward?
So it depends on, just because of the change in government wouldn't automatically result in this case, going cold or this case even being dismissed. That's typically not what happens in the United States. But what could happen is that the new set of people could re-examine the case and see whether, some of these charges are actually have any substance to it. And again, like I said, the overall goal probably will be on both sides, but at least on Adani's side would be to, arrive at some kind of an understanding about, okay, we'll admit to this, that we did not, like I said, again, I must repeat, Adani is not facing any charges in US courts on the act of bribery, the alleged bribery. He's not facing any charges in the US court. It's only about not disclosing the ongoing investigation about alleged bribery in their offering documents when getting money from US investors. So that, sure, I mean, that can be elevated to a criminal charge, and that has been elevated to a criminal charge, but it can, very justifiably, even under this administration or the new administration, be resolved with a hefty fine. So my hunch is, and again, this is, it depends, we'll have to wait and see how it happens. My hunch is that these negotiations could ultimately lead to, this payment of a hefty fine, and also the new set of people would probably investigate and examine whether, some of these charges really have substance in them, and if not, then let's just get rid of them and let's arrive at some kind of an understanding with the two Adanis named in the indictment.
Karthikeya, there's also a concern about how there might have been a violation of Indian law as well, as far as this investigation is concerned. The fact that the US government has pressed charges means that the American prosecutors were perhaps able to probe this matter in India as well, which is going to be a clear violation of Indian law.
No, Shreya, what I understand is that the first piece of evidence that they obtained was from the electronic devices belonging to Sagar Adani, and I believe I might be wrong on this, but I'll have to check the indictment again. Because Sagar Adani used to visit the US frequently for road shows, for attracting investment, for having people investors subscribe to the bonds of Adani Green and other related companies. So it seems like the FBI actually got an authorized warrant to search and seize the electronic devices and premises of Sagar Adani, and it seems like that is where the fountainhead of this whole charge is. That that's where they saw on his laptop and on his cell phones messages and other evidence that they have listed in the indictment. PowerPoint sheets, PowerPoint documents and cell phone messages, etc., that they then seized, and based on that they have effectively prepared this indictment. So I don't think this was anything that happened in the physical jurisdiction of India. I think it happened in the United States.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. Karthikeya Tanna, thank you very much for speaking with us on Global Mirror and breaking it down for us and for our viewers as far as the legal point of view is concerned in this entire case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.